Hollywood has always been a place where dreams look bigger than life. But behind those dreams, there are stories that are simple, human, and sometimes even funny. One such story starts with a man walking into a small shop early in the morning, still trying to remember what happened the night before. He looks confused, tired, and a little worried. He asks the cashier, "Was I in here last night, and did I spend a $20 bill?" The cashier nods and says, "Yeah." With that one word, the man suddenly relaxes. He places his hand on his chest, takes a deep breath, and says, "Oh boy, what a load that is off my mind. I thought I'd lost it." This simple moment shows how even the most successful or glamorous people can get stressed over something as small as losing a $20 bill. And that is the surprising part about Hollywood. No matter how shiny the lights are, the people living under those lights still face the same little worries and small moment of relief that everyone else does. It is a place where giant movie sets, red carpets, and expensive cars can exist right next to everyday human fears and funny mistakes. This story might seem small, but it opens a bigger window into Hollywood and its strange mix of glamour and reality. Hollywood is known for its dazzling lights, giant posters, and stars who look perfect in every photo. But behind those bright lights, there are countless stories of people who live ordinary lives while carrying extraordinary dreams. Some people come to Hollywood with big hopes of becoming famous actors, singers, writers, or directors. They imagine applause, cameras, awards, and fans cheering their names. Others come because they think Hollywood is full of magic, a place where anything can happen. But what they do not see at first are the struggles, the sleepless nights, the disappointments, and the long hours of hard work. Many people living in Hollywood have to work regular jobs like waiting tables, managing shops, or driving taxis just to survive while they chase their dreams. That tired man searching for his missing $20 could be an actor who spent the night rehearsing, a writer stressed about finishing a script, or someone who just had a bad day. Hollywood may look perfect from the outside, but the truth is that people living there deal with the same simple worries as everyone else. This is why stories like this feel so real and relatable. They remind us that even in a place where movies are made, life does not always follow a script. And I am the heart of Hollywood. There are thousands of small shops, cafes, and gas stations where little moments like this happen every day. People laugh, argue, forget things, make silly mistakes, and try to fix them. But Hollywood has a special way of turning even simple moments into ideas for big stories. A writer passing by might see the worried man asking about his $20 and think, this could be a great start to a movie scene. A director might imagine how to shoot that moment with dramatic lighting. Even a comedian might use it as a joke for a show. That is the power of Hollywood. Ordinary moments can turn into extraordinary stories. And the best part is, these real moments show more truth than the glamorous world on screen. They remind us that Hollywood is not only about fame, it is about people trying to figure out life one step at a time. So when a man finds out he did not lose his money after all, it becomes a small yet beautiful moment of relief, the kind of moment that makes Hollywood feel surprisingly human. When we look at Hollywood from far away, it appears like a world made of gold, where everything is perfect and everyone is happy. But when we step closer, we see that this world is full of pressure, confusion, and moments that make people question themselves. Many actors and artists who come here think success will arrive quickly, but Hollywood moves slowly and tests every dream before giving anything back. People spend years practicing, auditioning, waiting for a call, and hoping for a chance that might change their future. Some people get lucky early, but most keep trying again and again, even when they feel tired or unsure. The funny moment about the man who lost his $20 shows how even small problems can feel big when life is already filled with stress. It may seem silly to worry so much about a little amount of money, but when someone is already carrying a lot of pressure from their daily struggles, even tiny things can feel heavy. That is why the man felt so relieved when he learned he did not lose the money, because his mind was already full of bigger worries that no one else could see. Hollywood is also a place where people hide their fears behind smiles. On screens, actors look confident, strong, and fearless. But when the cameras turn off, many of them feel nervous about the future. They worry about getting older, losing roles, paying bills, or disappointing the people who believe in them. New actors worry about being rejected again and again. Writers fear that their ideas will not be good enough. Directors fear losing their creativity or not getting a chance to prove themselves. Even successful stars carry their own secret fears. Hollywood has a way of making people feel like they must always be perfect, always happy, always strong. But no one can be perfect all the time. That small moment at the counter, did I spend a $20 bill here last night? Shows how human everyone really is, even in a world built with illusions and applause. It reminds us that behind every confident face, there might be a person quietly fighting their own battles. Walk through the streets of Hollywood early in the morning, and you will see a different world. Before the lights turn on and before the cameras start rolling, the streets feel quiet, almost tired. You can see people carrying backpacks, coffee cups, scripts, and dreams. Some look hopeful, while others look like they have already faced too many disappointments. But all of them keep moving, because Hollywood teaches one important thing. You only lose when you stop trying. Many people working small jobs like cashiers, waiters, photographers, or cleaners have big dreams hidden inside them. They are waiting for someone to notice their talent, waiting for the right moment, waiting for that one chance that can change everything. Sometimes they feel lost, just like the man who thought he lost his $20. But the moment they find even a small piece of hope, they feel strong again. Hollywood has many stories like this. Stories of fear, hope, struggle, and relief. The little things matter a lot here. A small success can lift someone's spirit for days, and a small mistake can break their confidence for weeks. That is why even a tiny relief, like finding out a $20 bill was not lost, feels huge. In a place where everyone carries big dreams, every small victory becomes important. The story of the man in the shop may seem simple, but it reflects a much deeper truth. Hollywood is built not only by stars walking red carpets, but also by ordinary people who wake up every day, fight their fears, and keep going no matter how tough life becomes. These people are the real heart of Hollywood, and their small moments tell bigger stories than any blockbuster movie ever could. While Hollywood is famous for its glitz and glamour, it is also a place full of secrets that most people never see. Behind the red carpets, the flashing cameras, and the big movie premieres, there's a world where actors, directors, and workers face real challenges, struggles, and sometimes shocking behaviors. One of the most surprising truths about Hollywood is that some of its brightest stars, people we imagine as perfect, were often very different in their private lives. For example, many of these stars had habits, personal routines, or hygiene practices that were unusual, strange, or even shocking. The reality is that fame does not change human nature. People who are famous, who live in enormous mansions and wear expensive clothes, can have the same fears, worries, and even quirky behaviors as anyone else. What the public sees on the screen or in magazines is carefully designed, edited, or staged, while the truth of their private lives can be very different. Some stars went for days without showers, avoided cleaning their homes, or used bizarre routines to manage their personal hygiene. Others combined smells of alcohol, cigarettes, perfumes, and oils into a unique, personal scent that could surprise anyone who entered their homes or worked near them. These hidden habits show that while Hollywood may be a dream for many, it is also a world where human quirks become magnified under pressure. Fame. One famous example of this strange contrast between public image and private behavior is Marlon Brando. He was admired by millions for his powerful acting and his on-screen charisma, but behind the scenes, his personal habits could shock anyone. Brando often lived among clutter, moldy food, old pizza boxes, spilled liquor, and cigarette ashes. He rarely changed clothes or showered, believing that these habits somehow helped him stay authentic as an actor. During the filming of Apocalypse Now in 1979, the crew had to use activated charcoal to control the smell on set. Even his co-stars admitted that being near him could make them dizzy or uncomfortable. This kind of behavior was unusual and extreme, but it shows that even someone considered a genius in their craft could have personal habits that were almost unbelievable. Brando's story is a reminder that talent, fame, and skill do not always come with normal personal routines. Hollywood, in this sense, becomes a place where extremes are common, and people live in ways that surprise the public. Similarly, Marilyn Monroe, the ultimate beauty icon, had personal routines that shocked those around her. On camera, she appeared flawless, with perfect hair, makeup, and perfume, but off camera, her habits were very different. Monroe often went to bed without washing off her makeup, letting layers of lipstick, cream, and powder build up. Her bedroom was filled with a strong mixture of perfume and other scents, sometimes making the air almost unbearable. For those who worked closely with her, such as photographers or makeup artists, this created a strange and difficult environment. Yet, Monroe believed that these habits added to her allure and charm. Her story highlights a bigger truth about Hollywood. Sometimes, personal quirks become part of the identity of stars. Fans loved her beauty and charisma, but very few knew about the unusual habits that shape her private life. This contrast between public image and private reality is a recurring theme in Hollywood, where appearances are everything, and the truth is often hidden behind layers of makeup, perfume, and secrecy. Beyond actors like Brando and Monroe, Hollywood is filled with many other stories of stars who live in unusual or extreme ways. Some avoided soap entirely, relying only on alcohol, perfume, or lemon juice to stay clean. Others smoked constantly, drank heavily, or neglected basic hygiene for decades. These habits may seem strange or even shocking to ordinary people, but they were part of the lives of the people who shaped the golden age of Hollywood. Their private routines remind us that behind glamour and fame, human nature is complicated, messy, and sometimes unpredictable. Hollywood is not just a place for beautiful faces and shining lights. It is a place where extremes exist, where habits and quirks become magnified, and where ordinary human flaws can become extraordinary stories. In this world, even small personal choices can become legendary, remembered long after movies are over and the cameras have stopped rolling. One of the most famous and shocking examples of unusual hygiene in Hollywood is Clark Gable, the man often called the King of Hollywood. On screen, he was every woman's dream, handsome, charming, and confident, but his private habits were very different from the glamorous image the public saw. Gable suffered from a serious gum infection in the 1930s, which caused his breath to carry a strong, unpleasant odor. He lost most of his real teeth and wore dentures permanently. These dentures were never removed for cleaning because Gable feared they might change his appearance. Food would get stuck in them and begin to decompose, producing a smell that coworkers found very hard to tolerate. On the set of Gone with the Wind in 1939, Vivian Leigh, his co-star, reportedly had to stop filming during intimate scenes because the smell became too much to bear. Other crew members had to use roasted coffee, mints, and throat sprays just to get through the day. Despite these extreme challenges, Gable was very careful in other areas of his life. He bathed regularly, shaved carefully, and dressed impeccably, showing that his strange personal habits were not due to general laziness, but rather specific choices about his hygiene. His story is a clear example of how even the most admired men of Hollywood could have private behaviors that shocked those around them. The contrast between his public charm and private reality made him fascinating, and his colleagues could never forget the unique combination of charm and unpleasant odor that he carried everywhere he went. Elizabeth Taylor is another Hollywood icon whose private hygiene habits were unusual and surprising. Known for her beauty, luxurious lifestyle, and countless films, Taylor had a strong attachment to perfumes and scents. She rarely bathed with water or soap, believing that using them too much would wash away her allure. Instead, she layered multiple perfumes, lotions, and oils to create a unique scent that became part of her personal identity. Every morning, she would apply different perfumes in different areas of her body, including her neck, hair, and shoulders. This created a strong aroma that filled entire rooms, often overwhelming anyone who entered. Her silk sheets could stay unwashed for days because she believed that the lingering scent made her feel attractive. On film sets, the crew sometimes struggled to work in spaces where her perfume mixed with sweat, creating a dense, dizzying smell. Taylor's routine shows a fascinating aspect of Hollywood life. Beauty and hygiene were often personal choices, and stars sometimes made decisions that were shocking, strange, or extreme. Despite these unusual habits, Taylor's charm and elegance were never questioned, proving that fame can allow extraordinary routines to become part of a star's identity. Bette Davis is another star who left an unforgettable mark on Hollywood history, not only for her acting but also for her extreme habits. Davis was a chain smoker from a very young age and combined smoking with heavy drinking, creating a constant aroma of nicotine, alcohol, and sweat around her. By the 1950s, she smoked over 100 cigarettes a day, and the smell of smoke soaked her hair, clothes, and even the room she spent time in. Crew members often found it difficult to work on set because the haze of smoke made breathing challenging. Her adopted daughter recalled that everything in Davis's home, from bed sheets to curtains, smelled like smoke. Despite the discomfort she caused, Davis remained a brilliant and admired actress. Her story illustrates how addiction and personal habits could deeply affect not only one person's life, but also the environment around them. In Hollywood, where appearances are carefully controlled, Davis's habits were extreme reminders that fame does not always change the messy, human aspects of life. Finally, Howard Hughes, the billionaire filmmaker and aviation tycoon, is an example of how fear and obsession shaped unusual hygiene habits. Hughes developed an extreme fear of germs after a plane crash in 1946, and over time, this fear became an obsession. By the 1960s, he isolated himself in hotels, refusing to let anyone touch him and limiting his contact with water, sunlight, and fresh air. Hughes went months without bathing, and his hair and beard became greasy and long. His room smelled of sweat, mold, and unwashed food, and the staff could barely tolerate the conditions. Even though he was extremely rich and powerful, Hughes' fear of germs controlled his hygiene, creating extreme living conditions that shocked everyone who encountered him. His life is an example of how personal phobias, stress, and fame could lead to extreme, unusual habits, showing that Hollywood stars were human, complicated, and sometimes very strange behind closed doors. Cary Grant, often called Hollywood's perfect gentleman, had personal hygiene habits that were completely unique and surprising. Unlike stars who avoided bathing entirely or used heavy perfumes to cover themselves, Grant had a very specific routine that he believed kept him clean and healthy. For over 40 years, he refused to use soap, relying instead on cold water mixed with fresh lemon juice. Each morning, he would squeeze several lemons, mix the juice with water, and carefully wipe his body with a towel dipped in this mixture. He followed this routine with a generous spray of cologne, creating a very strong combination of citrus and fragrance that became his signature scent. His house always carried the smell of lemons, which was so strong that neighbors often knew when he was home just by walking past the windows. His routine was strict, and anyone trying to touch his cups, towels, or personal items was not allowed. A silver cup he used to mix the lemon water remained on his vanity until his death, untouched by anyone else. Grant's unusual hygiene shows that Hollywood stars sometimes created entirely new systems for staying clean according to their personal beliefs, rather than following normal standards. It also highlights how fame gave them the freedom to develop routines that might have seemed strange or even extreme to ordinary people. Another iconic figure, Joan Crawford, was on the opposite side of the spectrum. She was obsessed with cleanliness and order, creating a home that was so sterile it resembled an operating room. Every day, her staff had to follow strict rules, cleaning and polishing the house according to detailed schedules. Door knobs were wiped multiple times a day, windows cleaned repeatedly, and even the bed sheets were changed nightly. Guests were required to remove their shoes before entering, and pets were cleaned with disinfecting cloths. Crawford's strict routines were influenced by her childhood in a filthy environment, which had left a lasting impression on her. On film sets, she continued her extreme practices, making sure every chair, prop, and set piece was perfectly clean before filming. Crawford's obsessive cleanliness created a stark contrast with other stars who ignored hygiene entirely or relied on perfumes, oils, or alcohol. She lived in constant fear of dirt, turning tidiness into her own personal religion. Even though her practices may have seemed extreme, they were also a reflection of her discipline, her control over her surroundings, and her desire to maintain perfection both on and off camera. Errol Flynn, the swashbuckling star of Hollywood, provides another example of how fame and personal habits could create unusual hygiene situations. Flynn, known for his roles as daring adventurers, lived a private life that was surprisingly careless when it came to cleanliness. After nights of heavy drinking and parties, he would often avoid showers, splashing only a little water on his face and using a small amount of cologne on his neck. His clothes would stay unwashed for long periods, and his home would fill with the smells of alcohol, tobacco, and sweat. Co-stars often complained that standing near him could make them dizzy, but Flynn rarely changed his habits. He even drank alcohol instead of water for long periods, which contributed to the strong odor that clung to his skin. Despite these extreme personal routines, Flynn remained a popular actor admired for his charm, wit, and adventurous persona. His story shows how Hollywood allowed personalities to thrive even when their private habits were unconventional, strange, or shocking to others. This mix of talent, charm, and extreme personal choices made stars like Flynn memorable both on and off the screen. These stories show a pattern in Hollywood. Fame often amplified personal habits, whether they involve extreme cleanliness, unusual hygiene routines, or strange personal rituals. Stars could live in ways that ordinary people would find difficult or shocking, yet they remained admired, loved, or feared because of their talent and charisma. The public often only saw their polished appearance, glamorous clothes, and perfect smiles, while the private reality could be chaotic, strange, or even dangerous. Hollywood, in this way, was not only a world of dreams and lights, but also a hidden world where human quirks, fears, addictions, and obsessions became part of the legend of each star. The extremes of hygiene, from avoiding water entirely to obsessively cleaning every surface, illustrate how personal choices and human habits could shape the identity of these stars, leaving lasting stories that continue to fascinate us today. Steve McQueen, famously known as the King of Cool, is one of Hollywood's most memorable stars, not just for his acting, but also for his unusual personal habits and hygiene. On screen, he appeared confident, stylish, and effortlessly charming, but off-camera, his personal routine was very different from what people might expect. McQueen had a strong dislike for bathing and rarely took showers. Instead, he would wipe himself quickly and use Old Spice or other colognes to mask odors. This meant that after a day of racing motorcycles or performing stunts, he would often carry the strong smell of sweat gasoline and motor oil wherever he went. His leather jackets, shirts, and gloves absorbed these smells and became almost impossible to clean completely. On the set of Bullitt in 1968, crew members reported that they had to deodorize the cars and spaces constantly because his unique scent of oil, smoke, and sweat lingered everywhere. McQueen even parked motorcycles inside his home, and his living spaces, including carpets, furniture, and curtains, were often stained or smudged from grease and sweat. Despite all this, McQueen remained a beloved star, admired for his daring personality, his cool persona, and his dedication to work. His story illustrates how personal hygiene in Hollywood did not always follow normal rules, especially when combined with passion for extreme hobbies and unique lifestyles. For McQueen, his signature smell was almost part of his legend, something that set him apart from other stars and added to his mystique. Gary Cooper is another example of how personal choices could create unusual hygiene habits, even for the most admired stars. Cooper was seen as one of Hollywood's most elegant men, known for his calm voice, charming smile, and sophisticated appearance. Yet, he had a strange fear of harming his teeth and gums, which led him to avoid brushing his teeth regularly. Instead, he rinsed his mouth with water or used coffee or mints to mask odors. This created a persistent, unpleasant smell that affected those around him. While filming Desire in 1936, co-star Marlene Dietrich reportedly had difficulty standing close to him because of the strong odor from his mouth. Despite these extreme hygiene choices, Cooper remained highly respected and admired by fans and colleagues. He dressed meticulously, kept his hair combed, and maintained a proper appearance, which shows that his unusual habits were limited to very specific areas of his life. This example highlights the strange contrast that could exist in Hollywood. Someone could be charming, elegant, and widely admired, while also having private habits that were shocking or off-putting to others. These contrasts made Hollywood stars fascinating, because their public image often hid unexpected quirks. Spencer Tracy, another Hollywood legend, provides yet another example of extreme personal habits influencing hygiene. Tracy was well known for his incredible acting ability and strong presence on screen, but in his private life, he struggled with alcohol and rarely bathed. His body often carried the smell of sweat and liquor, which made working near him challenging for co-stars and crew members. Fans would never have known this from watching his films, as his talent and professionalism overshadowed his personal habits. Tracy's addiction and neglect of personal hygiene created an environment where ventilation and fans were necessary on set to help manage odors. Despite these challenges, he remained a respected and influential figure in Hollywood. Stories like McQueen, Cooper, and Tracy show that the golden age of Hollywood was filled with extraordinary talents whose personal lives often contain unusual, shocking, or even unhealthy routines. Hygiene, in this sense, was not just a private concern. It became a defining part of stars' identity and the myths surrounding them. These examples illustrate a larger pattern in Hollywood during the golden era. Stars were expected to look perfect on camera, but off-screen, human habits, fears, and obsessions could dominate their lives. Whether it was McQueen's love of motorcycles and gasoline, Cooper's fear of damaging his teeth, or Tracy's struggles with alcohol, personal routines often became extreme, strange, or even legendary. Hollywood was not just a place of glitz and glamour. It was also a place where extreme personalities, unusual habits, and human quirks combined to create stories that are remembered long after the stars themselves have passed away. The mix of charm, talent, and shocking personal behavior created the enduring fascination that surrounds these legends even today. Gary Cooper and Spencer Tracy are not the only stars whose personal habits shocked their coworkers and fans. Many others from Hollywood's golden age had hygiene routines that were unusual, extreme, or simply hard to imagine today. One of these figures was Bette Davis, a powerhouse actress known for her strong voice, determination, and unforgettable performances. Davis started smoking at a very young age, and by the 1950s, she smoked more than 100 cigarettes a day. She also drank whiskey frequently, which combined with her smoke, sweat, and perfume to create a persistent odor that filled her dressing rooms and homes. Curtains, bed sheets, and clothing all carried the scent of nicotine, and the crew often had to pause filming to manage the thick clouds of smoke on set. Even though her personal hygiene might have seemed extreme, it did not prevent her from achieving incredible success in Hollywood. Davis's story is a reminder that personal habits, even those considered unpleasant or shocking, can coexist with brilliance and talent. In many ways, her routines reflected her relentless drive, her personal choices, and the pressures of maintaining an iconic presence in Hollywood. Another example is Howard Hughes, the billionaire filmmaker, aviation tycoon, and recluse. Hughes' life was defined by extreme fear of germs, which led him to develop highly unusual hygiene habits. After a plane crash in 1946, he became obsessed with avoiding contamination, and by the 1960s, he often locked himself in hotels, forbidding anyone from touching him or even entering his room. Hughes went months without bathing, and his hair, beard, and fingernails became long, greasy, and unkempt. His living space smelled of sweat, mold, and leftover food, making it nearly impossible for staff to stay in a room for long periods. Hughes relied on canned food and used straws wrapped in tape to avoid direct contact with utensils. Despite his extreme fears, Hughes continued to conduct business, direct films, and maintain a public image of brilliance. His story shows how phobias, fear, and personal obsession can create extreme habits that go far beyond normal hygiene routines. Even the wealthiest, most powerful individuals in Hollywood were not immune to personal struggles that shaped their private lives in shocking ways. Joan Crawford, in contrast, represents the other extreme. While stars like Hughes or McQueen neglected hygiene in one way or another, Crawford was obsessed with cleanliness. Her Brentwood mansion was spotless, polished, and maintained with near-military precision. Sheets were changed nightly, doorknobs wiped with alcohol every few hours, and windows cleaned multiple times a day. Visitors were asked to remove their shoes, and even pets were cleaned regularly. Crawford's strict routines were shaped by her childhood in a filthy environment, and she turned cleanliness into a personal religion. On film sets, she continued her obsession, ensuring every prop and chair was perfectly clean before filming. While some stars' extreme routines shocked people because of neglect or filth, Crawford shocked people by being extremely meticulous, demonstrating that extremes in hygiene could take different forms. Her story highlights the unusual balance in Hollywood